What's going on, friends? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about gimbals and how to balance them correctly. Now I know that there's a lot of videos on the tubes right now and they all talk about how to balance specific gimbals, but in this video I want to share with you guys how to balance any gimbal. We go from the Crane 2S to the Weebill 3E to a Smooth S5. This one is pretty cool that Zhiyun just sent me, but we'll talk a little bit about that later. It doesn't matter what gimbal you have. In this video, you're going to learn how to balance any and all of them. Please don't judge me. If you've purchased a gimbal recently, they all provide very smooth shots, but at the same time, they also have a pretty decent payload. Cameras are getting lighter, they're getting mirrorless. Balancing your gimbal is probably the first step that you need to take as far as getting smooth shots. Secondly, you're gonna save your gimbal's motors because without having a balanced gimbals, those motors in the gimbals, they're gonna be working a lot harder to compensate for your offset or non-balanced camera. I see requests all the time on the forums that, hey, my gimbal broke or the motors suck or it only lasted 6 months. It's probably because it's not balanced to begin with. Let's move all this out of the way. The big mother load of my gimbals. I love Zhiyun gimbals, but more importantly, we're going to be talking about balancing them. Right here, I have an R6 with a 2470, which is a pretty typical setup. Canon cameras tend to be a little bit heavier. I already have the Zhiyun plate on this, just to show you guys that I'm not starting off with a pre-balanced gimbal. I'm going to shift this around like it's from scratch. I mean, I'll shift this around. I'm cheating on this one because I use this Crane 2 so much that I have my little cheat code here, which I'll share with you guys later in the video. But essentially, there you go. It's all loosey-goosey, and no matter what you have, there's going to be a tilt, a roll, and a pan. So all those 3 points need to be balanced. Most modern gimbals, they have these locking arms. We'll lock all these arms like so, and then we'll have basically this tilt arm. So I have it all the way down. It's super remove. I'll probably just put it in the middle just for the sake of simplicity. This Crane 2 actually has this sliding plate. So let me just start this way so I can slide this guy in. You'll see that I have this mounted very far back on the plate, and the reason being is that on Canon, well, actually a lot of full frame cameras, is that it's typically front heavy. So you want to have that plate all the way to the front because the front of the lens tends to be the heaviest, and that's where a majority of the weight's going to go. So with zoom lenses, I like to typically zoom it in the middle. This setup is probably 3 pounds. The Crane 2S can hold 7, 8 pounds or so. I don't really remember. You slide this guy all the way through. It's locked in there, and when I release the tilt axes, it's like a floppy sloppy Joe, and that's not a good thing. The weight of it is mostly in the front. So I'm going to slide this guy back slowly, a little bit there, as you can see, and I'm going to lock this down. Guys, let me tell you, it doesn't matter what gimbal you're using, whether it's a DJI product or another gimbal, the concept of balancing gimbals in general is the same. On a lot of DSLRs, the weight is typically where the lens is, and most gimbals, you'll have this ability to slide left and right. Now, I typically like to have my gimbals as close as possible to the motor itself because it just helps balancing it so much easier when you have it like that. Also, keep that roll axis more tidy, and I like that. You'll see again, it is locked in just like that. So I'll tilt this camera up, loosen the tilt arm, and slide the tilt arm back until it basically doesn't move. It sits parallel facing up. Boom. I'm very nitpick when it comes to balancing gimbals, and I'm gonna lock it down right here. So as you can see, with that in place, it kind of messes up the front and back weight distribution a little bit. So I'll kind of just go back here and slide this a little far back. Really cool about DJI gimbals is that they have the little rolling arm, the little kind of tweaking roller arm there, which is really cool. I think that all gimbals should have that, but it's not that hard. As you can see, I can basically move this camera in any position on the tilt arm and it should not move. So this is a great first step right here as far as locking down that tilt arm so it's fully balanced. And one of the reasons why I like to have a little bit of a stronger gimbal is I can use zoom lenses, punch in, punch out, and the motor should be strong enough to hold its weight when zoomed in and out. If you're a prime shooter, you don't need to worry about that. If you're a zoom shooter, pick up a gimbal that's a bit stronger than the actual weight of the camera. On another note, before I get further into the video, you guys have to load up the camera with all the accessories. I'm talking about ND filters, SD cards, batteries, fill lights, anything that you're putting on the camera itself as far as weight. You need to put all that in there first, because especially those ND filters, those variable ND filters, they will drop the weight and change your setup entirely. It's really important to have all of that all set up, and there you go. That's my tilt arm. And now that I have that locked down, I'm gonna lock it, which helps. And then I'm gonna play with this tilt. It's obviously a locked camera right now. One thing people say on the forums is it's so hard to slide the gimbal on the arm. Lift up the whole arm and then slide. Don't just slide the arm, just so slightly, and that thing will just move easily. So there you go. If I move this, you can see it basically does not move. The roll axis stays in place. And if I unlock the tilt arm, you could already see that it doesn't move anywhere. When the camera doesn't move anywhere, when you unpower it or unpower it, when you power it down and it doesn't move, that's how you know you have perfect balance. Let's lock these guys down for now. And how do you balance the pan? So what I like to do is I'll keep the feet on the table or solid surface, and I'll tilt the camera this way. And you'll see that the weight of the camera is towards the front of the lens. So that's why it's rolling that way. So what I'll do is I'll unlock the pan arm, and I basically do it again. It's a rinse and repeat process, kind of a pan. Ooh, that's pretty good. I got that done the very first shot, and the pan arm does not move. With that said, if I unlock all these arms, this camera should not move at all. It doesn't matter where it's positioned, this camera should not move. That's how you know that you have achieved perfect balance. I did promise you in the video, I'm going to show you guys how to balance it on any gimbal here. So let's just kind of take off this plate, and we'll do it on the Weebill 3E. There you go, the Weebill 3E. I love this gimbal. It's so small and compact. Same concept, locking arms, lock them in. This has its own plate, but for the sake of saving some time, I'm just gonna use the longer Zhiyun plate. It's the same exact thing. Oh, one thing to know is that you see how I have this mounted straight onto the camera? By doing it this way, you don't need to use the lens collar, which is one of these guys. A lot of the pro mid-level gimbals has these, and you guys should use these. I feel like a lot of people that I meet, especially in the wedding world, they don't use these at all. And what that essentially does is, especially with zoom lenses, on our DSLRs, on DSLR and mirrorless cameras, we only have one mounting point. Through experience shooting both real estate and weddings, when I don't have that lens support, sometimes the gimbal goes crazy and starts to do micro jitters. It feels like the lens, due to its weight, it's creeping forward, or the mounting plate is getting loose. So if you guys ever experience that, try to use one of these. It'll help you. Back to the Weebill 3E, same concept. It has the sliding arm, your tilt arm, and then your roll arm. So on the Weebill 3E, you'll notice that there is no adjustable roll arm. Still works because they designed this gimbal to hold a certain amount of weight, but it'll work just as fine. Again, middle to the middle point right there. I'm lucky that the Zhiyun gimbal shares the same plates. So again, I'm going to lock this as close to the tilt arm as possible, because I think that is the best. Where's the lock? Right there. It's locked in, but it does slide forward in and out. You can see it again, front heavy. Let's slide this thing again. Let's slide it back. Oh, it's a little bit too far back. So you can see that the weight of the camera is still towards the bottom of this tilt arm, and I need to raise this up a little bit because it's sitting pretty low on the gimbal itself. So I'll loosen this again, guys. Lift up the weight. You see how I do that? Gradually hold the entire camera for the weight. So it's almost there. I would say the weight is a little forward now. And pull it back. It's always like that a little bit. Really nice about certain gimbals is that they have these guidelines, and once you memorize that guideline for a certain lens, it's pretty fast as far as setup. So there you go, boom. Just a little bit. It's really the micro amount of movements is going to change this setup. Okay, I've played with that for a few times right now, and I feel like it's still rolling, and that's because that's an indicator that my tilt arm is a little bit weighted too low, and I'm going to push that up a little bit. Loosen and go up. I went up just about a line or so. And there you go. It's no longer moving. As you can see, my tilt arm is completely balanced. Weebill 3E. Now, I got to balance obviously the other parts. So I'll lock down this tilt and I'll play with the roll. On this particular gimbal, the roll arm is balanced with this sliding plate as well. So I can shift this around where my tilt arm is like that, and I'll lock it down. Release the pan axes, and there you go. So again, front heavy, gonna loosen this, slide this to the back, something like this. Still pretty much front heavy. I'm gonna slide this even further back, and still front heavy. Really maximizing this. Now it's a little bit back heavy, too much. We're there, people. We're there, people. Boom, if I lock and unlock any of these arms, you can see the camera barely moves. Power this guy on. There you go, the Weebill 3E. Balanced, ready to rock and roll. And there you go. One thing to also notice when you guys lose balance on your gimbals, like when you turn it off, it will flop. The gimbal should basically not move. Let's just say I did my tilts. I was tilting, I was pitching up, and I was turning, and all of this. So I have it tilted up, and as soon as I power this gimbal off, which I'm doing right now, it should simply not move. Guys, that's how you know when your gimbal's balanced. Let me just lock this in real quick with these tilty arm things. Okay, boom. Let me lock the tilt arm first. So it's almost balanced. Okay, I know that in a lot of marketing videos, they're like, oh, they switch it and it's vertical now. It's like, oh God, I'm shooting. It's not true, guys. It's not fully balanced yet. It's there almost, but it's not fully balanced. As you can see, this guy is mostly balanced as far as front and back, but it's not balanced up and down. So in this case, I'm going to loosen this arm and push this up just a little bit. Again, guys, you are playing with this setup. If you want to set it up correctly, you need to kind of play with it. That's basically it. So it's a little bit too high, I think. I set it up too high, so you got to bring it back down just a hair. Just a hair. There you go. Vertical balance. It's a little bit front. So bring this guy back just a little bit. On the Weebill 3E, there is no roll axis balance, but you kind of control that with this arm right there. So you can essentially slide this camera to the left a little bit, slide it a little bit to the left, and now you have that tilt axis down. And as you can see, the camera does not move. So even on the Weebill 3E 2470 balanced midway, it is certainly possible. So let's just kind of take a look at the pan to see if it's changed. Remember, guys, if you change any, oh, okay, the pan usually is pretty good. And if I power it on, there you go. There you go, guys. Vertical balance, same concept. This is the Zhiyun Smooth 5S, and the concept again is the same, just like its bigger brothers, and it's a little bit different because it doesn't actually have a tilt adjustment. I'm going to take my iPhone 15 Pro Max, which is kind of a heavier gimbal. I'll take it off the case for the sake of sexiness right there. Put that guy on right there on the smooth. It's kind of almost dedicated for its own arm because there's no real adjustment on the tilt arm on the smooth, but they do have a roll adjustment, as you can see. So I'll unlock that just like my other gimbals, and you'll see that it rolls to the right. So maybe I can actually lock this and you can see it rolls this way. I'm going to unlock this and slide this over. So every phone is going to be weighted differently, whether you have a Pro Max or an iPhone 15. Just like any other gimbal, you need to add all the accessories onto the unit itself before you balance. In this case, the Zhiyun Smooth has an IR tracker right there, It has a fill light, which is really kind of cool, like right there. And if you add all these things, it will change the balance of your setup. There you go. We mounted to the Zhiyun Crane 2. That is pretty cool. Check out this smooth AI tracker. Let's just kind of put it right there and just say, oh, did you see that? That is some freaky stuff. Zhiyun's come up with some AI tracking stuff, man. That's so crazy. I can imagine this being put onto the Pro gimbals that Zhiyun has, and that is pretty sick, man. What happens if I... Whew, dude, I can't even turn it. This thing is glued onto me. That is insane. How do you stop tracking? Man, hold on a second. Stop. Oh. That is crazy. There you go. Zhiyun's smooth AI tracker on the S5. If you guys like videos like this, please consider subscribing, hit that like button, share the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. That didn't work out.